I remember the day vividly, as if it were etched in my mind like a photograph that refuses to fade. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm, golden hue over the cluttered living room, filled with remnants of my past. Family photos, a faded couch, and the unmistakable scent of my wife's vanilla candles still lingering in the air. I had just turned 70, a milestone that should have been filled with joy. Yet I sat there grappling with a weight heavier than any birthday cake could lift. It was the day I decided to confront my son about his hurtful words that had pierced my heart like arrows. For years I had dismissed his careless remarks, attributing them to the insensitivity of youth. But as I watched him grow from a boy into a young man, those words began to resonate differently. The sting of his comments haunted me, echoing through my mind during quiet moments. Stealing the joy from family gatherings, I often found myself reflecting on the times we spent together. His laughter as a child, the way his eyes sparkled when he discovered something new. But those memories were now overshadowed by a darkness I could no longer ignore. The day had come when I could no longer be silent. My heart raced as I prepared myself for the conversation, a mixture of dread and determination swirling within me. I could hear the muffled sounds of him in his room, the faint thuds of his music reverberating through the walls, a soundtrack to the turmoil brewing inside me. I took a deep breath, the familiar scent of vanilla filling my lungs, and approached his door, a knot forming in my stomach. I knocked gently, and when he opened the door, I saw the surprise in his eyes. My son, once so innocent and eager for my approval, now stood before me with a hint of defiance. I hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words, but I knew I couldn't let fear steal my voice. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady despite the tremors of uncertainty. We settled into the living room, the silence between us thick with unspoken truths. I could feel the tension crackling in the air, a palpable reminder of the unresolved issues that had built up over the years. I chose my words carefully, each one a step toward revealing the hurt I had kept buried for too long. "Son, there's something I need to share with you," I began, my heart pounding in my chest. "Some of the things you've said to me, they've hurt more than you know." His initial reaction was defensive, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. "I didn't mean it like that," he replied, a hint of frustration in his tone. But I pressed on, recounting moments where his words had cut deep, the times he dismissed my opinions, belittled my choices, or made jokes at my expense. I spoke of the loneliness those moments created, the way they made me feel invisible in my own home. As I laid bare my feelings, I saw the walls around him begin to crack. The anger that had initially surfaced melted into confusion and, eventually, understanding. He looked away, his gaze drifting to the window, where the last rays of sunlight danced against the trees outside. The room fell into a heavy silence, and I could sense the shift in his demeanor, as if he were grappling with a realization that had eluded him for too long. "Dad, I didn't know." His voice trailed off, a mixture of remorse and vulnerability in his eyes. It was then that I recognized the turning point in our conversation, the moment where we began to bridge the chasm that had formed between us. I realized that this wasn't just about my pain. It was about his journey, too. The struggle to understand his father, to navigate the complexities of adulthood while still holding on to the bond we once shared. We spent what felt like hours talking, unraveling the threads of our relationship, exploring the fears and insecurities that had led us to this moment. I shared stories from my own youth, the mistakes I had made, the misguided words I had spoken in anger. With each revelation, I saw a flicker of empathy ignite within him, as if the pieces of our lives were coming together in a way that illuminated the darkness that had clouded our connection. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft twilight glow in the room, I felt a sense of peace beginning to wash over me. It was not an instant fix, nor did I expect it to be. but we had taken a step together toward healing, toward understanding the hurtful words that had once created a barrier between us were now being replaced with compassion and a shared commitment to nurture our relationship. In that moment, I realized that confronting my son about his words was not just about addressing the pain, it was about paving the way for a renewed bond built on honesty and love. I felt lighter, as if the burden I had carried for so long was finally being lifted. I could see a flicker of hope in his eyes, a willingness to engage in this journey of transformation alongside me. As our conversation came to a close, I felt a renewed sense of purpose in my heart. I had faced my son, not with anger, but with the wisdom gained from years of experience. I had shown him that vulnerability is not a weakness, but a strength, a bridge to deeper understanding. We hugged tightly, a gesture that spoke volumes, and I knew that this was the beginning of a new chapter for both of us. In the days that followed, I found myself reflecting on that pivotal moment. I understood that healing takes time, that words, both hurtful and loving, can shape our relationships in profound ways. I hoped that by sharing my story, I could inspire others to confront their own conflicts with compassion and courage. Life is a tapestry woven with threads of joy and sorrow, love and pain. And sometimes it's in the most challenging conversations that we find the strength to weave a new narrative, one filled with understanding and reconciliation. If you've ever faced a similar moment in your own life, I invite you to share your thoughts. Your stories matter, and together we can continue to learn and grow. In the days that followed, I found myself replaying that pivotal conversation in my mind, dissecting every word and gesture. The memory of his hesitant expression still lingered, a reminder of how fragile our connections can be. It struck me that the hurtful words exchanged between us were not merely isolated incidents. They were reflective of a deeper struggle, a struggle that many families face but seldom discuss openly. I realized that navigating the complexities of our relationship required not only honesty, but also patience and persistence. As I reflected, I recognized the importance of creating a safe space for future conversations. I decided to invite him to join me for a weekly dinner, a time dedicated solely to reconnecting and sharing our thoughts without distractions. It was essential to establish a routine that encouraged open dialogue. I wanted him to know that he could express his feelings freely, and I would be there to listen, not to judge. I hoped that these dinners would serve as a foundation for rebuilding trust and understanding. On our first dinner night, I prepared his favorite meal, a dish that had become a symbol of our shared history. The aroma of the food filled the room, blending with the familiar scent of vanilla candles that still lingered. As we sat down together, I felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The conversation started slowly, with small talk about his day and the music he was listening to. But I knew we needed to delve deeper. I broached the topic again, this time focusing on the impact of words beyond just our relationship. "Son," I began, "words have the power to uplift or to wound. I want us to explore that together." He hesitated, his fork pausing mid-air, but I could see a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. I shared stories not just from my life, but also from the experiences of friends who had faced similar challenges with their children. I emphasized how easy it was to get caught in the whirlwind of life, where hurtful words often slipped out unfiltered. "Have you ever thought about how your words affect those around you?" I asked gently. This question opened a door to a deeper conversation about empathy and the importance of being mindful of what we say. He began to share instances when he felt misunderstood by his peers, moments when he wished someone had chosen their words more carefully. It was a profound realization that we were not so different after all. We both grappled with the weight of our words. As our dialogues evolved, I introduced the concept of vulnerability. I recounted stories from my own past, times when I had fallen short and regretted my words. I wanted him to see that admitting our mistakes does not diminish our strength. Rather, it enhances our capacity for growth. I could sense a shift in him as he absorbed these stories, a softening of his defenses. One evening, as we shared a quiet moment over dinner, he opened up about his own insecurities. "Dad, sometimes I feel like I'm just trying to find my way and it comes out wrong." His admission was a breakthrough, a glimpse into the struggles he faced in navigating adulthood. In that moment, I understood that his hurtful words were not simply a reflection of disrespect, but rather a manifestation of his own confusion and fear. I encouraged him to express his thoughts more openly, to share not just what he felt, but why he felt that way. We began to explore the roots of his frustrations together, discussing the pressures he faced in school, friendships, and even societal expectations. Each layer we peeled back revealed a deeper understanding of one another, forging a path toward healing. As our conversations deepened, I noticed changes in him. He seemed more present during our discussions, his demeanor less defensive. The music in his room became less of a barrier and more of a backdrop to our evolving relationship. I felt hopeful as I watched him navigate his emotions with newfound awareness, realizing that this journey was not just about me confronting him, it was about us growing together. I often reflect on how crucial it is to foster environments where conversations can flourish for anyone navigating tough conversations with loved ones, whether it's hurtful words or deeper issues. I encourage you to create that space. Sharing my story is just one way to highlight the power of connection. If you're a content creator, consider sharing your own experiences and insights. The Brazilian automation platform for YouTubers, linked in the description, can help streamline your storytelling process. As we continued our weekly dinners, I began to see our relationship blossom in unexpected ways. We laughed more, reminisced about fond memories, and even debated heated topics. But now, with a sense of respect that had been missing for far too long, I learned that healing is not linear. There are ups and downs, moments of clarity, and times of confusion. But what mattered most was our commitment to keep the conversation alive, to keep digging deeper, and to hold space for each other's feelings. In those moments, I realized that vulnerability had become a bridge between us. It was a testament to the fact that addressing hurtful words was not just about pointing fingers, but about fostering understanding and compassion. I began to understand the profound impact of our dialogue, not just on our dynamic, but on my personal growth as well. It was a reminder that I, too, had to be mindful of my words, to practice the empathy I sought from him. As we navigated this path together, I felt a renewed sense of hope for the future of our family. I understood that addressing pain and fostering healing requires continuous effort and engagement. Each conversation became a stepping stone toward a more profound connection, a testament to resilience and love. And in sharing this journey with you, I hope to inspire others to embrace the discomfort of difficult conversations, to lean into vulnerability, and to recognize the strength that lies in open, honest dialogue. As our dinners continued, I began to notice something remarkable: the subtle transformations in our home environment. The tension that once hung in the air dissipated, replaced by a sense of anticipation for our conversations. I realized that this shift was not just about the words we exchanged, but about the atmosphere we cultivated together. It became clear that our home was not just a physical space, but rather a reflection of our emotional landscape, a canvas where we painted our evolving relationship. One evening, as we sat across from each other, I brought up the notion of accountability. "Son," I said, "when we hurt someone with our words, it's important to acknowledge the impact. It's not always easy, especially when we're feeling overwhelmed ourselves." His eyes locked onto mine, and I could sense a deeper understanding brewing within him. We discussed how accountability is intertwined with growth, and how taking responsibility for our actions can lead to healing, not just for others, but for ourselves as well. The conversation shifted to his friendships, and he began to open up about his own struggles in navigating peer relationships. He shared moments when friends' words had felt like daggers, cutting deep and leaving scars. It struck me how much of his expression stemmed from a place of pain, mirroring the very hurt he had once inflicted. "It's like we're all just trying to find our way," he admitted. And I nodded, recognizing the universal nature of our struggles. As he spoke, I encouraged him to reflect on the power dynamics in his friendships. Sometimes we don't realize how our words can create rifts or foster connections, I added. His contemplative silence spoke volumes, and I could see him processing the weight of these insights. It was a reminder that our conversations were not merely about resolving past conflicts, but about equipping him with the tools to navigate future challenges with empathy and awareness. During these discussions, I also began to incorporate literature and films that touched on themes of communication and understanding. I recommended books that explored the intricacies of human relationships, stories that illustrated the consequences of our words. I wanted him to see that he wasn't alone in this struggle, and that many others had wrestled with similar issues. Sharing these narratives sparked deeper discussions, allowing us to explore complex emotions together. One night, as we delved into a particularly poignant story about a father-son relationship, he surprised me by saying, "Dad, I think I've been holding on to my hurt for too long." His vulnerability resonated deeply, and I recognized that this was a pivotal moment in our journey. We talked about the importance of letting go of grudges, misunderstandings, and even the weight of unspoken expectations. It was liberating for both of us, a step toward healing that we both desperately needed. As our relationship deepened, I began to see how these conversations equipped him to confront situations outside our home. He started expressing himself more thoughtfully, not just with me, but with his friends and at school. I could see a change in how he interacted with others, an increased awareness of the impact of his words. It was a testament to the power of our dialogues, showing that healing is a ripple effect, extending far beyond the initial confrontation. One evening, I decided to challenge him further. "What would it look like to practice kindness in your words every day?" I asked. This question opened a new realm of discussion, prompting him to brainstorm ways to foster positivity in his interactions. We talked about small acts of kindness, compliments, understanding responses, or simply listening. It was a beautiful moment of connection as we both realized the profound impact of nurturing kindness in our lives. These conversations became the bedrock of our relationship, a source of strength that fortified us against the inevitable misunderstandings that arose. They reminded us that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a powerful tool for connection. I began to see that addressing hurtful words was about creating a dialogue that transcended mere language. It was about forging a bond grounded in understanding and compassion. During this time, I also made it a point to reflect on my own words. I realized that as I encouraged him to be mindful, I too needed to practice what I preached. I became more conscious of my tone, my choice of words, and how they could be perceived. This self-awareness added another layer to our discussions, reinforcing the idea that we were both on this journey together. As we navigated through our shared experiences, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the opportunity to grow alongside him. It was a reminder that our conversations, while challenging, were a necessary part of our evolution as a family. I hope that by sharing our story, I could inspire others who might be facing similar challenges. If you're a content creator navigating tough conversations, exploring the Brazilian automation platform for YouTubers, linked in the description, could help you share your experiences and foster connection. With each dinner, we created a tapestry of understanding, weaving in threads of vulnerability, empathy, and growth. Even when disagreements arose, we approached them with a renewed sense of respect, understanding that every conversation was a chance to learn and grow. It was not just about addressing hurtful words, but about embracing the complexities of our relationship, knowing that the path ahead would be filled with moments of both clarity and confusion. In those quiet moments, I often reflected on the power of open dialogue. It became more than just a means of communication. It turned into a lifeline that strengthened our bond. I was learning, just as much as he was, that love is not only about the good times, but also about navigating through the difficult conversations that challenge us to grow. And as I shared this journey with you, I hope to inspire others to lean into those uncomfortable moments, knowing that the rewards of connection and understanding are worth every effort. As our conversations deepened, I noticed that the themes of accountability and kindness began to ripple through other areas of his life. One weekend, as we were driving home from a soccer game, he suddenly said, "Dad, I've been thinking about the times I've snapped at my teammates." His admission hung in the air, heavy yet liberating. "It's like I didn't realize how my frustration affected them," he continued, his voice tinged with sincerity. This moment struck me as a perfect opportunity to explore the concept of emotional intelligence, a subject I had always believed to be essential for navigating life's complexities. Recognizing how our emotions impact others is a crucial step in becoming more empathetic, I said, encouraging him to elaborate. He reflected on how he often felt overwhelmed during games and how that pressure sometimes manifested in hurtful comments towards others. "Do you think it's possible to express frustration without hurting someone?" I asked, hoping to guide him toward a solution. His contemplative silence spoke volumes once again. "Maybe I could just tell them I'm feeling frustrated instead of lashing out," he suggested thoughtfully. I couldn't help but feel a swell of pride in his ability to connect his feelings to his actions. As we discussed these insights, I noticed a shift not only in his self-awareness, but also in his willingness to engage with his emotions. It was as if a new language was unfolding before us, one rooted in honesty and vulnerability. I began to realize that our discussions were not just about addressing past hurts. They were about laying the groundwork for a future where he could articulate his feelings with confidence and compassion. In the coming weeks, I encouraged him to practice this newfound awareness in small, everyday interactions. I would often remind him, small changes can lead to significant impacts. He started experimenting with this approach at school, and I could see him grappling with the challenges of applying these lessons in real time. One day, he came home excited, recounting how he had diffused a tense situation between friends by simply expressing how their arguments made him feel. "Dad, I didn't even raise my voice," he said, his eyes sparkling with pride. "I just told them I felt uncomfortable when they fought." This was a breakthrough moment, a testament to the progress he was making. I reflected on how empowering it was for him to recognize that vulnerability could lead to strength, an essential lesson I wished I had learned earlier in my own life. However, it wasn't always smooth sailing. There were moments of regression, times when frustration would bubble over and old habits would reemerge. One evening, after a particularly challenging day at school, he let slip some hurtful words directed at me during dinner. The sting of his comment cut deep, deep, reminding me of the struggles we were working through. Instead of reacting impulsively, I took a breath and chose to address it calmly. "Son, I know today was tough, but it hurts when you speak to me like that," I said, my voice steady but firm. "Let's talk about what's going on." This moment became a critical learning opportunity for both of us, reinforcing the idea that healing is not linear. He eventually opened up about the pressures he was facing at school, academic stress, social dynamics, and self-doubt. As he spoke, I realized that this was not just about his words, but a reflection of the internal battles we often fight silently. In those moments of vulnerability, I shared my own experiences of feeling overwhelmed and how I sometimes struggled to articulate my emotions. Our mutual sharing created an atmosphere of trust, enabling him to understand that it's okay to admit when we stumble. It's part of being human, I said, gently reminding him that we are all a work in progress. This exchange acted as a reminder that even in our moments of hurt, we have the power to choose how we respond and grow from our experiences. As we continued to navigate these complexities, I introduced him to the idea of forgiveness, not just as a gift we give to others, but as a means of freeing ourselves from the burden of resentment. Holding on to anger only weighs us down, I explained one evening, as we reflected on a story about a character who found peace through forgiveness. I want to let go of the anger I've been holding against myself for the times I've hurt others, he said, his honesty cutting through the air like a balm. This conversation opened the door to a deeper understanding of self-compassion, and it became evident that he was beginning to grasp the importance of treating himself with kindness, just as he was learning to treat others. Throughout this journey, I often reminded him of the significance of communication, not just as a means of expressing thoughts, but as a tool for fostering connections and understanding. Every time we talk, we're building a bridge, I said, encouraging him to envision our conversations as pathways leading to deeper insights and stronger bonds. Through literature and shared stories, we explored the nuances of communication, diving into characters who face similar struggles. These narratives served as mirrors, reflecting our own experiences while illuminating the paths others had taken in their quests for connection. And as I shared these stories with him, I realized that my own journey as a parent was unfolding in parallel, revealing layers of my own emotional landscape that I had yet to confront. If you're a content creator navigating tough conversations, exploring the Brazilian automation platform for YouTubers, linked in the description, could be invaluable as you share your journey of growth and connection. In those moments of reflection, I was reminded that our discussions were not simply about addressing hurtful words, but about fostering a culture of understanding, one where vulnerability and empathy became the cornerstones of our relationship. I felt grateful for each opportunity to engage with him, recognizing that these dialogues were shaping not only his perspective but also mine. As we moved forward, I understood that our story was just beginning, and each conversation was a stepping stone toward a deeper connection. It was a reminder that embracing the complexities of our emotions and the words we choose to share could lead us to a more profound understanding of ourselves and each other. As we reached the end of this journey together, it became clear that confronting my son about his hurtful words was not just about addressing a specific incident. It was about fostering a culture of empathy and emotional intelligence in our relationship. Through our conversations, we uncovered the profound impact our feelings have on others and learned that vulnerability can be a source of strength. He began to grasp the importance of expressing frustration without resorting to hurtful words, and we both recognized that healing is a non-linear path filled with setbacks and breakthroughs. These discussions opened the door to self-compassion and forgiveness, allowing him to let go of burdens that weighed heavily on his heart. Each conversation we shared became a building block in our bridge of understanding, reinforcing the notion that communication is vital in nurturing connection. If you're a content creator navigating tough conversations, explore the Brazilian automation platform. For YouTubers linked in the description, if you've ever faced a similar challenge, share your thoughts below, like this video, and subscribe for more real conversations. Remember, the journey of understanding ourselves and each other is ongoing, and every word we choose can shape the legacy of our relationships. What will you choose to say today?